Tolls in trouble. Next on Face the State, Democrats slam the brakes on the governor's plan to resurrect tolling in Connecticut. So what's next? We will ask State Representatives Susan Johnson, a Democrat, and Jason Perillo, a Republican. Also, is revitalizing cities the key to revitalizing Connecticut? What will it take for millennials to move here and stay here? We'll ask two of them, attorney Nisha Sidor and consultant Jesse Imsek. Our flashback, that sad day in Connecticut history. The Hartford Whalers announce they're leaving. You'll see eyewitness news coverage from that day in 1997. It's all straight ahead this Sunday, November 24th, 2019.
From Eyewitness News, Connecticut's most watched local political program, this is Face the State.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us at 8:30 on Face the State. I'm Dennis House. The battle over tolls took an unexpected turn this week when House Democrats announced they would not support the governor's plan for tolls. We already knew Republicans didn't support it, so what does this mean? With us this Sunday, two state lawmakers, Susan Johnson, a Democrat representing Windham, and Jason Perillo, a Republican representing Shelton. And state representatives, thanks for being with us on this Sunday morning. And I'll begin with you, Representative Johnson. This was kind of a stunner from Democrats that they were not going to support car tolls of any kind. What do you think of this? What led to this?
Well, I think what led to it is the original campaign by the governor, who campaigned on the tolls for trucks. And we all agree that we need to do something to pay for our roads and bridges. We are in a state of almost emergency at this point because even the federal government thinks that we should be doing something about that, and they will stop giving us as much money as they're giving us now in federal transportation funds if we don't start to improve our roads and bridges. So the question becomes who pays and how. And it didn't look like the governor's 2030 plan, which looked like it was going to give us more money, would actually be a situation where we could get the support of both sides of the aisle and the Senate and the House. So we have to be able to work together. And one of the things that I'm very, very pleased to see is that the Senate Republicans have come out with a plan, and also the House Republicans are working on a plan. I know the Senate Democrats are coming out with a plan as well, and so we are beginning to have those conversations. So my good friends on all sides of the aisle are going to work together to try and solve this problem so that we don't lose federal funds, so that we begin to expand our Connecticut economy, and we don't take all the money from the people in the state of Connecticut, because I think that that's one of the things House Democrats are focused on, and that's why we went to the tolls to the trucks, which would just be like the tractor trailer trucks and that sort of thing.
Let me turn it over to Representative Perillo for just a second. So is this good news for Republicans that Democrats no longer want tolls on cars, but they do want them on trucks? Would you support them for trucks only?
No, and what I'm not clear on, quite frankly, is what Democrats want, period. You know, we've been all over the map on this. The governor made a campaign promise about trucks only, and then a couple months later changed gears entirely, no pun intended, and said we're going to do trucks and cars. There were 80 gantries. There were 52 gantries. Then he came out with 42. And now we're backtracking again. I'm not convinced that Democrats don't want to see tolls on cars. And quite frankly, I see tolls on trucks as a first step to the inevitable. What we heard over and over is we can't get enough money from trucks alone. And I don't think that mindset among Democrats has changed. Always are Democrats looking for new ways to generate revenue, which is code for taxes and fees.
Is the view from Democrats that tolls on cars is absolutely dead?
Absolutely, at this point in time, we're negotiating now. This is a negotiation.
So there's room for the governor to say, listen, I really want these, and you might go along with that?
Well, we will go along. We will go along with, right now, our leadership and the people are looking at tolls on trucks, because we think that that is what the people voted for when the governor ran for office. And so we did exploration of all different types of things, but I think that that's part of the legislative process, frankly. We need to look at all the angles to determine what the best options are. And we did look at ways to generate more funds with cars. We had car tolls and truck tolls back until the 1980s. And at that point in time, we were generating about $59 million a year with a lower rate tolls that's excluding the cost of the operation of tolls. So we've lost that $59 million a year. And now here we are, fast forward, we're in a situation where the business community really wants us to do something with our roads and bridges, and they support tolls.
Let's talk a little bit about what citizens are saying. Are they really against tolls? What are they telling you in your district in the Naugatuck Valley?
It is extraordinarily clear to me that residents in the state of Connecticut do not want tolls. And I'll take exception with something that the representative just said. What I'm hearing from the business community is that they don't want tolls, even if it's just on trucks. At the end of the day, this is about building a strong economy. And what I'm hearing from so many individuals, businesses and residents, is that tolls are not the way to do that. We grow our way out of these challenges by bringing more people into the state of Connecticut, and tolls simply don't do that. They're not conducive to strong commerce.
Representative Johnson, we are entering an election year, 2020, big election year across our state. All of you are up for re-election, and I'm wondering if this is playing any role at all in the change from car tolls to no tolls for cars. If you look back at some of the elections we've had, Gennaro Bizzarro won in New Britain on the special state Senate race, defeating a Republican because he campaigned against tolls. Linda Osten, first select woman of Sprague, just lost. The anti-toll people came after her, even though it was not really a town issue, but she is also a state senator. So do you think that that kind of plays into this, that maybe Democrats don't want to be going to their constituents saying, hey, I supported tolls, now vote for me?
Let me just say, when I knock on doors in my district, everybody says, how come we aren't doing tolls? Now, there are a few people that don't say that, but most of the people say, how come we aren't doing tolls? So that's what I hear in my district. So that's a difference maybe between Western Connecticut and Eastern Connecticut. And I'm not sure what the situation was in Senator Austin's district. But in my district, in Windham, people ask me all the time, what are we going to be doing? Why aren't we doing tolls? And let me just say, it is a local issue, too, because if we do not find a way to generate the right amount of funds, the communities that serve their regions, the serving communities that have so many state properties in them, are going to be in a situation where they may be losing money. We also have not been providing the services that we need to provide for our education cost-sharing grants in alliance districts. What will happen if we don't have enough resources for those communities? So it is a community issue. It is a finance issue. Our bond rating and having the right cash flow is really very, very important. And one way to make sure we have the right cash flow is to do the tolls. Now, certainly we would have more revenue with cars, but with trucks, we would also maybe have a better chance of getting all the factions coming together and coming to an agreement with the governor. Governor wants to work on this, and I'm very, very pleased that everybody looks to me like they're trying to work on a solution for this. But I do have severe reservations about going into the rainy day fund, which, financiers say we should be at 15% of the total budget. And going into that rainy day fund, as the Senate Republicans has proposed, would be problematic as far as I'm concerned, because it's going to have an impact on our bond rating. And it's something that I just went through in my own district, where we had gone into a situation where there had been some concerns about moving things from one place to the other, one fund to the other, to try and not get into our rainy day fund. Okay. And then the bonding people said, hey, that's going to have an impact on your bond rating. So we have to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm going to let you jump in right here, because I'd like to find out what you think in terms of the political aspect of all of this. Will it be a big campaign issue in 2020? You're either for or against tolls.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt that the about face among Democrats on tolls is because of the upcoming campaign. There's no doubt about it. These are individuals who 6 months ago said we need tolls on everything, cars and trucks, and all of a sudden, as we get closer to a 2020 election, that changes. Everybody agrees that we need to do something to improve our infrastructure. People agree on that. But when I hear words like revenue and cash flow, it's just another burden on Connecticut businesses and Connecticut residents. It's just unbelievable to hear that this idea that these are going to be temporary. It's unbelievable to hear that the only way to do this is by extracting more money from Connecticut residents. Republicans have put forth a way to do this so that we can actually improve infrastructure, but not impose tolls, but not impose new taxes on residents. And it can be done, and it should be done.
What was the genesis, do you think, and just we have 30 seconds for each of you, of this whole anti-toll movement? Do you believe that the governor didn't handle it well a year ago?
No. If you take a look at an old OLL report that goes through the history, there's been an anti-toll movement in Fairfield County since the 70s. So, and then they got rid of the tolls after that horrible accident. But tolls had been going in and out of business for the state of Connecticut over time. Once the roads had been fixed, then the tolls stopped being used. So that we do have a history of that. If you go back to the Office of Legislative Research report, and you see where we've stopped using them. I think that slippery slope, No, because you'd have to go through the legislature and then make another deal with the federal government. So it's not a slippery slope. Any kind of change would require that process again.
And Representative Perillo, I'll give you the last 30 seconds.
It is a slippery slope, and we're going to see tolls on cars at some point in time, I believe, if this happens. You asked why there has been this anti-tolls movement. The anti-tolls movement came about because people don't want tolls. It's not very complex. That's why this happened. I think adding insult to injury was the fact that the governor made a promise during the campaign and then broke that promise just a few months later.
Jason
People don't
Perillo,
want tolls.
Susan Johnson, state representatives, both of you, we thank you so much for being on the program today. We'll see you again.
Thanks, Dennis.
Later, we will remember a state lawmaker who died this week. In a moment, how do we get young people to want to stay here in Connecticut? And later, a Whalers flashback we pulled from the archives. You'll want to see that. We invite you to watch past editions of Face the State right now on our app or our YouTube channel.